Hi everyone, and happy Wine Wednesday. If you are new, I'm Allie from A Glass After Work. Thank you for joining. Today, actually, instead of sharing wine, I am going to share 6 ciders. I'm actually going to taste all of them with you, which I received. I was actually supposed to participate in a Twitter chat last week, but I was feeling under the weather, and so I didn't actually get to participate and taste with the cider maker, but I didn't want to miss the opportunity to taste them live and to share my thoughts on them. If you don't follow me on Twitter, by the way, you can do that. I am at Allie, so that's nice and easy. So why don't we start off with talking a little bit about the cidery. It's called Eden Specialty Ciders, and they started in 2007. They actually grow 35 different types of apples, all grown biodynamically, and their ciders are made with their apples as well as the apples from 7 orchards in the area around them, and they are located in Vermont. I was doing some research, and the Association for Cider Makers came out with some guidelines about what makes different types of ciders. And they're basically trying to set standards so that when you go and you buy a cider, you know what it is that you're essentially getting. It's happened in the wine industry, it's happened in the beer industry, so no surprise that with the increasing popularity of ciders that it's now happening in the cider industry. And so Eden makes what are considered heritage ciders. The modern ciders have been described as being more of the kind of dessert type apples. The heritage ciders are made with heirloom apples and cider apples, and that's what Eden focuses on. Part of Eden's process is that they actually will only press the apples once a year. A lot of the other modern cideries, really more of kind of the big names that you would know, they have a regular rotating press schedule so that they can continue to pump out ciders throughout the year. Eden is much more like a winery where they're pressing one time a year. They will then use the cold for the winter to let the tannins and the sugar and the acid all integrate and work together, and then they will go through their cider making process, which is very similar to a winemaking process. They are not using any added sugars or doing anything to change the tannins in the cider, so they're keeping their cider making practices very minimal. They don't use any fining agents to take out any of the kind of the haze or to create more clarity in the ciders. They keep everything unfiltered. So we'll probably notice that in some of these wines. But in general, they're taking a traditional kind of cider wine approach to their ciders. With that, let's stop talking and start drinking. First up is called the Cinderella's Slipper, and it's actually a dry cider. I have never had a dry cider before, so I'm excited about this. This is actually one of the wines that is only available in their cider club, and they do have a cider club. They ship out ciders to their club members 4 times a year. You get 3 different types of ciders, and the cider club ranges between $60 and $75 a shipment plus tax and shipping. So it's affordable, and if you like cider, it may be worth checking out. There is my Simply Charmed turkey tom, and then you can see the cider in the glass. It's definitely a little hazy. It has a pretty, I would say it's like, medium to medium deep kind of goldish amber color. Whew. So the nose definitely has a lot of barnyard characteristics. I don't know if it's actually Brettanomyces, but it's that same sort of barnyardy characteristic. I like that. Not everybody does. I like that. I usually associate it more with like red wines. But it's kind of like some wet hay, some barnyard, lots of apples, and then some lemon juice, kind of like spritzed on the whole thing. Why don't we give it a taste? Cheers. Oh wow, so it's very interesting, very tart. It's kind of got like a bit of bitter and tartness. The barnyard characteristics are much more toned down in the palate. I'm getting lots of apple, very kind of tart, juicy apples, and definitely that kind of lemon juice spritzed all on top of it. I really like that. I am missing a little bit of the bubbles. I think that drinking a dry still Cider is probably something I would have to get used to, but I don't dislike it. It's just out of my everyday norm. So I'm sorry for dumping, but we've got a bunch of ciders to go through. So next up is the BRUT Nature. All right, so this is the Dry Heritage BRUT Nature. And so this is $15 a bottle, and it's made from about 15 different apples. Oh, look, you get some nice, I don't know if you can see that, get some nice foam going up at the top once I've poured it out. And then it's got some nice fizz and happening at the bottom of the glass. It's definitely, considering it's not filtered, it's very, it's got a little bit of haze, but it's pretty clear. So this also has got a little bit of that barnyard happening, but it's much more, I would say it's much more, into the barnyardiness is much more integrated. Definitely apples and lemons and barnyard. Want to give it a taste? Cheers. Ooh, I really like that. So the sparkle is not, I would say it's actually probably for me a little more of a fizz. Now maybe it's just because I don't have a whole big full glass of it, but it feels much more like a fizz than a full on like big bubbles in my mouth. But I really like that in that because it's giving it kind of a fresh, vibrant feel in my mouth without being super distracting. I do like it better than I like this still because I was really missing those bubbles. I think this might be a really good cider to pair with like a cheese board at the beginning of a meal. It really does feel more like a good replacement for your Prosecco or a Cava or something like that you might want to be drinking at the beginning of a meal to kick things off. This is definitely, for me, much more in that type of category. I think it would pair really well with cheese. I think that it would cut really nicely through some of the fat of like if you're putting prosciutto or something like that, it'll help cut through the fat of that because it has some good acidity and some good structure. So my vote is to start off your dinner party, your Thanksgiving dinner. Start it off with this one. All right, next up we have the Extra Sec. My apologies, the color of the writing on the Extra Sec is a little hard to see, but this is the Extra Sec. Part of the process when you have a sparkling wine, and in this case a sparkling cider, is that as you're finishing up the process and you're getting ready to put your final cork in the bottle, probably will have been capped off with a bottle cap, and you're going to have to take that bottle cap off. Because of the pressure of the bubbles and everything, you are going to lose some liquid during that process. So what is done is there is a bit of liquid that is put back in. It's called the dosage. In this case, instead of using the same kind of batch to put the dosage into the Extra Sec, what they do instead is they put some of their iced cider in. So that's got a little more kind of body and a little more sweetness. And so it'll change the structure of this wine just ever so slightly, or at least I expect it will change the structure just ever so slightly. All right. And I can already see that. So if you look, it's not a huge difference, but it is definitely a little bit difference in color. It is just slightly darker. Not a lot, but just slightly. So it's probably not surprising. You wouldn't expect it to be a whole lot darker because you're not putting a whole lot of extra dosage in. You're just kind of capping it off. And the barnyard characteristics are definitely toned down in this wine. I'm getting much more of apple and just like a hint of like floral sweetness. Nothing that's like overbearing or clawing, just like it's just almost like flower blossoms. And I'm still getting the kind of the citrus notes as well. Cheers. That's really good. I really like this. I actually think, interestingly, I actually think I like the BRUT nature better. Just because if I'm going to have some of that barnyard characteristic, I think I want a little less of the floral notes, but this is also really good. I actually see this as maybe being something that you could transition into the meal with. If you're thinking Thanksgiving, for example, I could see this being a nice cider to go with, for example, sweet potato casserole. If you do a sweet potato casserole, I think the acidity will pair nicely with kind of the heaviness of the sweet potato without clashing in terms of flavor and without being sweet. So you're not missing the sweetness from the sweet potato because you've still got a little bit of tartness happening in the cider. All right. Next up, and I don't know if I mentioned it, but both of those bottles are $15. Next up, we have the can. This can is Eden Specialty Cider's first can product. They actually released it June of this year. If you are a longtime viewer, you know that I am really big into the canned wines. I think quality needs to be better, but I love the idea. So I'm excited. I know that ciders are often a little more commonly found in cans, but I'm excited to see what theirs is like. All right, so color on this is definitely a lot lighter. Definitely a lot lighter. Oh, interesting. The nose is definitely a lot lighter too. And there's definitely a lot less sparkle. It's mostly, I would say it's mostly apples and citrus. Oh, it's definitely like fizz in the mouth that I wasn't picking up in the glass by looking at it. Lots of lemon juice. So for me, this kind of feels like you've actually like sprinkled the lemon juice on the apple and you're kind of taking the bite out of the apple that way. It's very good. I think this is probably for me more of a summer cider than it is like a fall cider because this is just light and crisp and fun. It would be perfect for like a hot day by the pool or down by the beach. Or to be honest, I mentioned this before, I'm really into like shower beers. So you've been working outside in the hot yard, want to come in, take a shower, have a beer while you're doing it instead of a beer. I think that this would be a perfect shower cider. I think for me, it's just a little light for the fall because I just want something that I can kind of like wrap myself in. And I feel like these other ciders were a little more of that. But I think if you are a cider drinker and are looking for something a little lighter to enjoy during the summer, this would definitely be it. All right, we are closing in on the end here. This is the Eden Imperial Rose, and this is an apple cider with some red currant. And this is also going to be $15. And you can see from this color, It really is like a rose gold color. It's actually really beautiful. It's like that perfect rose gold color. And, ooh, that's a fun nose. So on the nose, I'm getting apples. There's much more of a floral note to this cider. I would have said strawberries, but maybe the fact that I'm getting strawberries instead of red currants means I should probably reacquaint myself with red currant because I suspect it's probably red currant and not strawberries. But to me, it just kind of smells like strawberries, almost like kind of like tart strawberries though, like ones that are like early in the season. All right, we'll give it a taste. Cheers. Ooh, I really like that. This is probably my favorite so far. It has a little bit more depth. I really like these other ones, but they, and maybe it's partly just because cider is something I just drink. I don't know an awful lot about, so I haven't necessarily trained my palate on it. So maybe I'm missing a lot in terms of the flavor profile, but this I'm getting a little more out of. I really enjoy that little extra. It's still very tart. Still really nice. I think this would be a perfect Thanksgiving cider, especially if you're a white meat person, but you also like eating the turkey skin, because it's gonna have enough acid to cut through the fat of the turkey skin. But it would be like replacing your rosé wine with a rosé cider. So it's not going to overpower your turkey. It's going to be nice and subtle and complement those flavors. And so, yeah, I'm a fan. All right, and last but not least, we have Eden Vermont Ice Cider. Eden Vermont Ice Cider. Yeah, so I've never had an ice cider before. I know that sometimes people tend to shy away from dessert wines, particularly ice wines. I tend to like them. I don't drink them often because I don't think about it really, but I actually really enjoy them when I do drink them. So I'm excited to try this. Look at that color. That is just gorgeous. It is a beautiful, deep, like medium to deep amber. And oh, that nose. Oh, that nose. So it smells like, weirdly, it smells like the Jewish New Year to me. So for the Jewish New Year, we will put honey and drizzle it on top of apples, or dip the apples in honey to signify having a sweet New Year. And this just smells to me like honey and apples, just like this perfect combination of honey and apples. It smells like fall and holidays, and oh, that's beautiful. Plus, there's like this tiny hint of I want to say burnt sugar, but that's probably, sounds like I mean it in a bad way, but really what I'm thinking of is it's the smell of that like sugar crust on top of a creme brulee. I love to pick that sugar crust off and eat it by itself, and that's totally what this smells like to me. All right, let's give it a taste. Cheers. Oh my God, you guys, that is delicious. Holy cow. So all of those flavors, the honey and the creme brulee and the apples mixed with a little bit of floral notes, all of that is just magnified in the palate, but in a way that is really nice. So there's good acidity. It is actually, I would say, more in the medium body range. So you're not like, it's not super syrupy. Now I love some pumpkin pie. Probably not going to exchange my pumpkin pie at Thanksgiving for this, but I am definitely going to want a glass of this at Thanksgiving. And under normal circumstances, I probably would trade dessert for a glass of this. This is just beautiful. Well, I know what I'm probably going to keep drinking tonight. All right. Well, I would love to know, are you a cider fan? Have you tried Eden specialty ciders? Have you tried any other ciders from Vermont in particular? I am one of those people who I will drink cider if it's around, but I don't normally go and hunt it out and buy it. My husband, on the other hand, is a big cider fan. He actually almost always has some ciders in the refrigerator at all times. It's kind of like he doesn't drink beer, so if he's not going to drink wine, he will come home and just pop open a cider. I tend to go for beer instead, but I don't know. These are really good. I might not want to share them. Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on cider. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up. I really appreciate those. And if you aren't already a subscriber, you can become one by clicking on the caricature right here or by clicking on the subscribe button down below. But don't forget to also click on the little bell so that you can get notifications when I upload a new video, which is going to be every Wine Wednesday. And if you're looking for a recommendation, you can find one right there. Thanks for joining me. Happy Wine Wednesday. Cheers.